She was invited by Her Billionaire CEO to be humiliated at company party. But she walked in with twins he never knew existed. Angela. Angela Baxter. His voice cracked on her name like it was made of glass, and for one perfect moment, the most powerful man in New York looked like he might shatter right along with it. She stood there in crimson Valentino, flanked by two 7-year-olds who had his eyes and her determination, and she watched every calculation he had ever made about his life collapse in real time. "You are the one who built." He could not finish the sentence. His champagne glass trembled so violently that golden liquid threatened to spill over the rim. "You are Baxter Strategic. You are the acquisition target. You are. I am a lot of things now, Cyrus." Angela kept her voice pleasant, almost conversational, as if they were discussing quarterly projections instead of the wreckage of their shared history. Surprising what a person can accomplish when they have nothing left to lose. His eyes dropped to the twins. Caleb in his miniature tuxedo, standing with the rigid posture of a boy who had learned to be the man of the house before he understood what that meant. Chloe in her purple tulle dress, watching this stranger with the unsettling perception that children possess when adults think they are not paying attention. "How old are they?" Cyrus managed the question through lips that had gone pale. 7. Their birthday is March 15th. She watched him do the math. Watched 7 years of denial and assumption crumble as he counted backward 9 months from March to June. June of 7 years ago. Right when everything between them had imploded in the most public, humiliating way possible. "They are mine." It was not a question. Biologically, Angela confirmed with a calm that had taken years to cultivate. "In every other way that matters, they are entirely mine." The ballroom continued around them. 500 people in designer gowns and bespoke suits, drinking champagne that cost more than most people's monthly rent, completely unaware that the most important conversation of the evening was happening 15 feet from the bar. But Angela was aware. She had been preparing for this moment for 7 years. And she was just getting started. Before I take you deeper into this story, before I show you how a woman who was publicly humiliated became the most powerful person in the room, I need you to understand something. This is not a fairy tale. This is a story about survival. About building empires from ashes. About the moment when the person who broke you finally has to face exactly what they lost. If you have ever been underestimated, if you have ever been dismissed or abandoned or made to feel like you were not enough, this story is for you. But to understand how Angela ended up in that ballroom, standing over the ruins of Cyrus Thorne's composure, we need to go back to the beginning. We need to go back to the night everything fell apart. 7 years earlier. The same ballroom. The same crystal chandeliers catching light like frozen tears. The same crowd of Manhattan's elite, gathered for the annual Thorne Industries gala. But Angela was a different woman then. She stood in the corner near the service entrance, wearing a dress she had saved 3 months to afford, holding a champagne glass she was too nervous to drink. Her dark hair was pinned up in a style she had practiced for 2 hours that morning, trying to look like she belonged among people who had never had to practice anything. She was 24 years old, 3 weeks pregnant, and desperately in love with a man who had spent 18 months promising her forever. Cyrus Thorne. CEO at 35. Billionaire by inheritance, legend by achievement. The kind of man who made rooms fall silent when he entered, not because people feared him but because they could not look away. He had noticed her 8 months into her employment as his executive assistant. Or rather, he had finally allowed himself to act on what he had been noticing since her first day. "You are different," he had told her one late night in his office, when the building was empty and pretense felt pointless. "Everyone else tells me what I want to hear. You tell me what I need to know." Their relationship had been a secret. His insistence, not hers. He had explained it as protecting her from office politics, from the gossip that would make her job impossible, from the assumptions people would make about how she had earned her position. She had believed him because she wanted to believe him. Because when Cyrus Thorne looked at you like you were the only person in any room, believing him felt like the only logical choice. But standing in that ballroom, 3 weeks pregnant with his children, Angela was about to learn exactly how much his promises were worth. The crowd shifted. A murmur rippled through the room like wind across water. People began moving toward the center of the ballroom, drawn by some invisible current of anticipation. Angela craned her neck, trying to see past shoulders clad in silk and wool. She caught fragments of excited whispers. "Did you know? I had no idea. She is absolutely stunning." And then the crowd parted just enough for Angela to see. Cyrus stood in the center of the ballroom, looking more handsome than any man had a right to look, holding a small velvet box in his hand. For one wild, irrational moment, Angela's heart soared. She thought of the pregnancy test hidden in her purse. She thought of the future they had whispered about in the dark of his bedroom, when he held her like she was precious and promised that soon they would not have to hide anymore. Then Vivian Shaw stepped forward. Vivian. Angela's closest friend at the company. The woman who had taken Angela to lunch on her first day and explained how things really worked around here. The woman who had listened to Angela talk about her mystery boyfriend for months, offering sympathy and advice, never once revealing that she knew exactly who Angela was describing. Vivian, with her perfect blonde hair and her old money confidence, stood before Cyrus with tears already streaming down her flawless face. Cyrus opened the velvet box. The diamond caught the chandelier light and scattered it across the room like a cruel joke. Vivian Shaw, will you marry me? Angela's champagne glass slipped from her fingers. The crystal shattered against the marble floor, but the sound was drowned out by 500 people applauding, cheering, celebrating the union of two people who belonged together in a way Angela never could. Cyrus never looked at her. Not once. Not even when the sound of breaking glass should have drawn his attention. He was too busy sliding a ring onto Vivian's finger, too busy accepting congratulations from people who mattered, too busy being exactly who he had always been. A man who chose easy over meaningful. A man who chose appearance over authenticity. A man who had just taught Angela the most important lesson of her life. She did not cry. She did not make a scene. She simply turned and walked out of the ballroom, through the lobby, into the cold December night. 3 weeks later, she was on a plane to San Francisco with a suitcase, a pregnancy test, and absolutely nothing else. The woman who boarded that plane does not exist anymore. In her place stands Angela Baxter. Founder and CEO of Baxter Strategic Solutions. A consulting firm valued at $340 million. An empire built from nothing but determination and a refusal to let the worst moment of her life be the end of her story. She built it from a laptop in a studio apartment while 2 infants screamed in tandem, taking client calls at 3 in the morning because that was the only time both babies were asleep. She scaled it through years of sacrifice, of missed milestones she could not afford to miss, of guilt that never fully went away no matter how much success she accumulated. She did it alone because she learned the hard way that alone was the only reliable state of being. And now, 7 years later, fate had delivered the most ironic twist imaginable. Thorne Industries wanted to acquire her company. They had been pursuing Baxter Strategic for 6 months, drawn by its reputation for transforming struggling businesses into industry leaders. They had no idea that the mysterious founder they had never met was the same quiet executive assistant who had vanished from Cyrus Thorne's life 7 years ago. Angela had built her empire under a different name, in a different city, with a completely different identity. She had been careful. Meticulous. Paranoid in ways that had served her well. But eventually, the past finds everyone. The invitation arrived on a Tuesday afternoon in late November. Cream-colored cardstock, embossed with gold lettering that practically dripped money. Thorne Industries Annual Gala. Black tie. Your presence is requested as our guest of honor as we celebrate a potential partnership that will reshape the industry. Angela held it between fingers that no longer trembled at the sight of that name. She had spent 7 years building the kind of strength that did not flinch. That could not afford to. Her assistant, Marcus, hovered in the doorway of her corner office. I do not understand. You have declined every previous invitation to meet with them. You have conducted all negotiations through intermediaries. Why would they invite you as guest of honor? Because they think they are being generous. Angela set the invitation down on her desk, studying it like a battle plan. They think I am some reclusive genius who needs to be coaxed into their world. They have no idea who I really am. Are you going to tell them? The question hung in the air. Angela turned to look out her window at the San Francisco skyline. The city she had chosen because it was as far from New York as she could get while still remaining in the business world that would eventually make her powerful enough to never be vulnerable again. They are going to find out eventually, she said. The acquisition process requires disclosure. Due diligence will uncover everything. I would rather control the narrative than let them discover the truth in a conference room with lawyers present. Marcus nodded slowly, processing. And the twins. What about them? Angela was quiet for a long moment. The twins. Caleb and Chloe. 7 years of her life made flesh. The reason she had fought so hard, worked so relentlessly, refused to accept anything less than extraordinary. They had asked about their father. Of course they had. Children always did. Angela had been as honest as she could be with 7-year-olds. Your father is someone I knew a long time ago. He made choices that hurt me. But that is not your story to carry. Chloe, with her emotional intuition, had pressed further. Will we ever meet him? I do not know, baby. That depends on a lot of things. Caleb, analytical even at 7, had asked the question that cut deepest. Did he not want us? Angela had pulled both children close, breathing in the scent of their shampoo, grounding herself in their solid warmth. He did not know about you. When I left, I was hurt and scared and trying to survive. I made decisions that made sense at the time. Maybe they were not perfect decisions. But I did the best I could. Now, standing in her office with an invitation to the past burning a hole in her desk, Angela made a different decision. They deserve to know where they come from. She turned back to Marcus. And he deserves to see what he missed. RSVP yes. And book 3 seats. 3. Marcus raised an eyebrow. I am bringing my children. The flight to New York happened on Angela's private jet. A Gulfstream G650 that she had purchased 18 months ago, not because she needed it but because she had spent 7 years proving she could have anything she wanted. The twins were beside themselves with excitement. Caleb pressed his face to the window, watching the clouds scroll past like some elaborate screensaver. Chloe had commandeered a tablet and was drawing elaborate purple dragons breathing fire over cities that looked suspiciously like the Manhattan skyline. Mama. Chloe looked up from her artwork. Why do I feel like something big is about to happen? Angela smiled despite herself. Because something big is about to happen. Is it good big or scary big? Maybe both. Sometimes the most important moments are both. Caleb turned from the window, his gray eyes sharp with focus. This is about the person you used to know. The one you never talk about. Angela considered lying. Considered deflecting. But she had built her relationship with her children on a foundation of age-appropriate honesty, and she was not about to abandon that now. Yes. He is going to be at the party we are attending tonight. You are going to meet him. The twins exchanged a look that contained entire conversations. They had always been like that, communicating in ways that excluded everyone else, even their mother. Is he our father? Caleb asked directly. Yes. Is he going to try to be our dad now? Chloe added. I do not know. That depends on him. And on you. And on a lot of things we are going to have to figure out together. What if he is terrible? Caleb's jaw set in a way that reminded Angela painfully of looking in a mirror. What if he says he wants to know us and then does not show up? Then we will handle it together. The same way we handle everything. Angela reached across the aisle to take both their hands. But listen to me. Whatever happens tonight, whatever he says or does or turns out to be, you need to know something. You are not missing anything by not having had him in your life. I have loved you enough for 2 parents. You are complete exactly as you are. Chloe squeezed her hand. You are the best mama in the whole world. You are required to say that. I am not. Caleb shook his head seriously. We could definitely have a terrible mama. We just got lucky. Angela laughed, but her throat was tight with emotion she could not quite name. 7 years of building walls, and her children could still crack them with a single sentence. The jet landed at Teterboro just as the sun was setting, painting the New York skyline in shades of gold and blood. Angela looked out at the city that had once destroyed her and felt nothing but cold determination. She was not the same woman who had fled this city with nothing. She was about to prove it. The Thorne Industries building rose against the darkening sky like a monument to one man's ambition. Glass and steel, reaching upward as if trying to touch something it could never quite grasp. Angela had helped design the interior of this building once, back when she had been young enough to believe that loving someone meant they would love you back. The town car pulled up to the main entrance. A red carpet. Photographers. The kind of spectacle that existed specifically to make ordinary people feel small. But Angela was not ordinary. Not anymore. She stepped out of the car in her crimson Valentino, and heads turned. Not because of the dress, though it was stunning. Not because of the car or the confidence in her posture. They turned because Angela Baxter had become a legend in business circles, and no one had ever seen her in person. The mysterious founder. The reclusive genius. The woman who had built an empire without ever appearing on a magazine cover or attending an industry gala. Until tonight. The twins emerged behind her, Caleb first, offering his hand to help his sister like a tiny gentleman. They flanked Angela like small, impeccably dressed bodyguards, and the photographers went absolutely wild. Who are the children? Is Baxter married? I did not know she had kids. Angela ignored all of it. She had learned long ago that other people's curiosity was not her responsibility to satisfy. Remember the rules, she murmured to the twins as they approached the entrance. Do not touch anything expensive, Caleb recited. Be polite even if people are boring, Chloe added. And if anyone asks about your father, it is none of their business, they replied in unison, then exchanged satisfied grins. The ballroom doors loomed ahead. The same doors Angela had walked through 7 years ago, full of hope and naivety. The same doors she had fled through, broken and betrayed. She paused at the threshold. Mama. Chloe tugged at her hand. Are you scared? A little. You said brave means being scared and doing it anyway. Angela looked down at her daughter, at the fierce determination in eyes that were somehow both hers and Cyrus's. You are absolutely right. I did say that. She took a breath that had nothing to do with oxygen and everything to do with armor. And she walked through the doors. The ballroom was exactly as she remembered. Cathedral ceilings painted with scenes from mythology. Crystal chandeliers that cost more than most houses. The kind of opulent excess that existed specifically to remind everyone present exactly where they stood in the social hierarchy. But Angela was not intimidated by excess anymore. She had built her own empire, her own excess, her own monuments to survival. She walked through that ballroom like she owned it, because in many ways that mattered, she did. Heads turned. Whispers erupted. The mysterious Angela Baxter, finally in the flesh, and she had brought children no one knew existed. A young man in an impeccable suit materialized at her elbow. Ms. Baxter. Welcome. Mr. Thorne is eager to meet you. He has asked me to escort you to him directly. Of course he has, Angela murmured. She followed the assistant through the crowd, the twins keeping pace at her sides. She caught fragments of conversation as she passed. Who are those children? I had no idea she was a mother. She does not look like. Angela filed it all away for later. Right now, she had one focus. One goal. One moment she had been building toward for 7 years. Cyrus Thorne stood near the bar, surrounded by the kind of people who existed primarily to agree with whatever he said. He had aged in the way that powerful men do. More distinguished, more imposing, the silver at his temple suggesting wisdom rather than weakness. He wore his billions like a second skin, comfortable in a way that Angela had never quite managed despite her own fortune. He was laughing at something someone had said, his head thrown back, completely at ease in his domain. And then he turned and saw her. The laughter died. His expression shifted through confusion, recognition, shock, and something that looked almost like pain, all in the space of 3 seconds. Angela, he managed. Angela Baxter. Cyrus. She kept her voice pleasant, as if they were old colleagues reconnecting at a conference. It has been a long time. You are. He was doing calculations, she could see it. Running through every acquisition meeting, every strategic proposal, every piece of intelligence his team had gathered about the mysterious founder of Baxter Strategic. You are the one who built an empire. She smiled, and it was sharp enough to cut. Yes. Surprising what a person can accomplish when they have nothing left to lose. That was when his eyes dropped to the twins. That was when everything on his face collapsed. These are your. He could not seem to finish sentences. His composure, legendary in business circles, was crumbling in real time. Caleb and Chloe. Angela placed a hand on each child's shoulder. My children. They are 7. She watched him do the math. Watched his face go pale as understanding crashed into him like a wave. 7 years old. March birthday. 9 months before that would be June. June, when Angela had disappeared from his life without explanation. June, 3 weeks after his engagement to Vivian Shaw. They are mine. His voice was barely audible. Biologically, Angela confirmed. In every other way that matters, they are entirely mine. The crowd continued around them. Champagne flowed. Music played. 500 people celebrated in complete ignorance of the fact that Cyrus Thorne's entire world had just rearranged itself. We need to talk, Cyrus said. His voice cracked on the last word. Not here. Somewhere private. Yes, Angela agreed. But I am in control of this conversation. Not you. Whatever you want. He looked like a man who had just been told everything he believed was a lie. Whatever you need. Please. The elevator ride to the 47th floor was silent except for the soft hum of expensive machinery. Cyrus stood in one corner, gripping the handrail like he needed it to remain upright. The twins stood with Angela, watching this stranger with identical expressions of guarded curiosity. He looked sad, Chloe whispered to her brother. He looked scared, Caleb whispered back. They were both right. Angela had never seen Cyrus Thorne look scared before. Not in 18 months of knowing him, of loving him, of believing he was invincible. But he looked scared now. Terrified, even. Good. The doors opened onto an executive floor that Angela knew intimately. She had walked these halls hundreds of times, had organized these offices, had spent late nights in the corner suite that served as Cyrus's personal domain. She had also been inside that office for other reasons. Reasons she refused to think about right now. Cyrus led them into the conference room adjacent to his office. Neutral territory, Angela noted. He was already ceding ground he did not have to cede. Please. He gestured to the leather chairs around the massive table. Sit. Can I get you anything? Water. Coffee. We are fine. Angela guided the twins to chairs on her side of the table. Here, babies. You can play on your tablets for a bit while the adults talk. Are we in trouble? Chloe asked. No, sweetheart. Not at all. Caleb studied Cyrus with unnerving intensity. Is he in trouble? Angela nearly laughed. That remains to be seen. Just color quietly, okay? I will explain everything when we are done. The twins settled in with their tablets, appearing to focus on their screens but obviously listening to every word. Children always were. Cyrus sank into a chair across from Angela like his legs would not hold him anymore. His hands were trembling visibly. The most powerful man in New York, reduced to tremors by the sight of two 7-year-olds with his eyes. 7 years, he said finally. You have known for 7 years, and you never. I knew for 3 weeks. Angela cut him off, her voice carrying an edge she did not bother to soften. 3 weeks before your engagement party. 3 weeks before you stood in that ballroom and proposed to Vivian Shaw while I watched from the corner like I was nobody. Like 18 months of us had meant nothing at all. Cyrus flinched. Angela. I did not know. Of course you did not know. She leaned forward, letting him see exactly how much steel she had forged from his betrayal. Because you never looked at me. Not once. Not when the champagne glass shattered. Not when I walked out. You were too busy sliding a ring onto my best friend's finger. She was not. He stopped himself. That is not. I never meant. You never meant. Angela repeated the words like they tasted bitter. Cyrus, do you have any idea what you never meant? You never meant to make me believe we had a future. You never meant to tell me we would be together publicly as soon as the timing was right. You never meant to hold me in your bed and talk about children, about family, about growing old together. Every word landed like a blow. She could see it in the way he absorbed them, in the way his shoulders curved inward like he was trying to protect himself from impact. And then, she continued, 3 weeks after you told me you loved me, 3 weeks after I found out I was pregnant, you proposed to another woman in front of 500 people. And you never even looked at me. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the twins had stopped pretending to focus on their tablets. I did not know you were pregnant. Cyrus's voice was raw, scraped clean of any pretense. Angela, I swear to you, I did not know. Would it have mattered? She asked the question she had been carrying for 7 years. If I had told you that night, if I had walked up and announced it in front of everyone, would you have chosen differently? Would you have left Vivian standing there with an empty ring finger? Would you have chosen me? He opened his mouth to answer, then closed it again. His eyes were wet. I want to say yes, he finally managed. I want to say that of course I would have chosen you. But I do not know if that is true. I was a coward, Angela. I was terrified of what I felt for you. Vivian was safe. Easy. She did not make me examine the parts of myself I had been avoiding. You made me want to be better, and I was not ready to do the work. So you proposed to someone else. So I proposed to someone else. And I have regretted it every single day since. From across the table, Caleb spoke up. His gray eyes, so much like his father's, were sharp with judgment. Were you mean to our mama? The directness of the question cut through all the adult complexity. Cyrus looked at his son, really looked at him for the first time, and something in his expression cracked. Yes, he said without hesitation. I was selfish and careless with her feelings. I hurt her badly. That is not her perception or opinion. It is fact. Why? Chloe asked. Why were you mean? Because I was scared. Cyrus turned to face his daughter, and Angela watched him struggle to translate adult cowardice into terms a 7-year-old could understand. Your mama made me want to be a better person, and I was not ready to do the hard work of changing. So I chose someone who let me stay exactly as I was. That was wrong. I should have been brave enough to choose her. The twins absorbed this with visible deliberation. They exchanged one of their silent looks, having an entire conversation in the space between blinks. That was really stupid, Caleb finally pronounced. Yes. Cyrus almost laughed, but it came out more like a sob. It was really stupid. Are you still stupid? Chloe pressed. Or did you learn? I learned. Too late, but I learned. Vivian and I divorced 4 years ago. It was a marriage built on the wrong foundation. I knew it was wrong even when I proposed. I just did not have the courage to admit it. Angela felt something shift in her chest. She had spent 7 years imagining this conversation, scripting what she would say, preparing for every possible response. But she had not prepared for genuine remorse. She had not prepared for Cyrus Thorne, stripped of his armor, admitting his failures to 2 children he had just met. The twins apparently were not done with their interrogation. Do you want to be our dad now? Chloe asked. Very much. Even though we are 7 and you missed all the baby stuff, Caleb added skeptically. Mama says the baby stuff was really hard. Even though. Especially because. Cyrus leaned forward, his elbows on the table, his full attention on the children. I would like to be here for all the stuff that comes next. If you and your sister will let me try. We will think about it, Chloe declared with the seriousness of someone making a corporate decision. That is fair, Cyrus agreed. I would not trust me either. Angela found herself fighting a smile despite the surreal intensity of the moment. Her children were negotiating their relationship with their father like tiny executives, and somehow Cyrus was not completely failing at connecting with them. We need to establish ground rules. She pulled the conversation back to practical matters. If you want to be involved in their lives, it has to be genuine and consistent. Not weekend visits when you are not too busy. Not gifts instead of presents. Real engagement. Agreed. Whatever it takes. I am not moving back to New York. Denver is our home now. We moved there 2 years ago. The twins have friends, school, a life there. If you want to be part of that life, you will need to come to us. I can do that. I will fly out every other weekend to start. More often if you will allow it. We will start with once a month, Angela countered. Let them get used to the idea gradually. You can call weekly. Video chat if they are comfortable with it. But Cyrus, if you commit to this, you commit completely. You do not get to decide 6 months from now that fatherhood is inconvenient. I will not. You do not get to let them down the way you let me down. Cyrus met her eyes, and for a moment, Angela saw something beneath the polished exterior. Something that looked like genuine determination. I will not, he repeated. I want this. I want to know them. I want to be better than I was. Wanting is not enough. Doing is what matters. Show up. Consistently. Even when it is hard. Even when work is demanding. Even when you would rather be anywhere else. Show up anyway. I will. Angela studied him for a long moment, measuring the man against her memory. He seemed different. Smaller somehow, despite his height and billions. More human than the god she had built him into at 24. Maybe he had changed. Maybe 4 years of failed marriage and whatever came after had actually taught him something. Or maybe this was all performance, and 6 months from now the twins would be crying over broken promises while Angela picked up the pieces again. Time would tell. It always did. They spent another hour working out logistics. Supervised visitation. Video call schedules. Financial arrangements that Angela insisted she did not need but Cyrus insisted on providing. Every detail negotiated carefully, building a framework that would allow him into their lives without risking the stability she had fought so hard to create. By the time they finished, Chloe was getting restless. Mama, I am hungry. Can we get pizza? In a few minutes, baby. We are almost done. Can he come? Chloe pointed at Cyrus. If he is our dad, should he not eat with us? Angela had not anticipated extending the meeting into a family dinner. But the twins were looking at her with identical hopeful expressions that were impossible to refuse. If he wants to, she said carefully. I would love to. Cyrus straightened in his chair. If that is okay with everyone. Pizza has to be pepperoni and mushroom, Caleb stipulated. Not just cheese. Cheese pizza is boring. I like plain cheese, Chloe countered. You like everything plain. That is how I like it. We can get half and half, Angela intervened. Problem solved. They ended up at a pizza place 6 blocks from Thorne Industries. The kind of casual family restaurant that Cyrus almost certainly never frequented. He looked out of place in his custom suit, sitting in a red vinyl booth across from Angela while the twins colored on paper placemats with crayons the hostess had provided. "This is nice," Cyrus said, and he sounded like he meant it. "It is pizza. Not a fine dining experience. That is why it is nice. Normal. Real." The food arrived and they ate with the kind of awkward small talk that happens when two people with 7 years of history try to pretend they are strangers. The twins helped, chattering about school and friends and the elaborate fantasy world they had constructed together involving purple dragons and architecturally significant castles. "Caleb wants to be an architect," Chloe explained through a mouthful of cheese pizza. "He is always drawing buildings." "Is that true?" Cyrus asked his son directly. "Maybe. I like how buildings work. How they stand up and do not fall down. It is like a puzzle. Structural engineering." Cyrus set down his pizza, genuinely interested. "I studied that in college before I switched to business. The physics of load-bearing walls and foundation stress distribution." Caleb's eyes lit up. "Do you know about cantilevers? We learned about them at engineering camp last summer." "I do. They are architectural elements that project horizontally into space, supported only on one end." And just like that, they were off. Father and son discussing architectural concepts with an intensity that left Chloe and Angela exchanging amused glances. "Boys," Chloe whispered. "They are boring sometimes." "Sometimes," Angela agreed. "But it is nice that they found something to talk about." It was nice, she admitted privately. Watching Cyrus engage with Caleb on his level, not talking down or oversimplifying, but treating a 7-year-old like his interests were valid and worth discussing seriously. This was the Cyrus she had fallen in love with 7 years ago. The one who paid attention, who made people feel seen, who brought intelligence and genuine interest to every interaction. She had forced herself to forget he could be like this. Because remembering made the betrayal hurt worse. After pizza, they walked the 6 blocks back to Thorne Industries where Angela's car was waiting. The autumn evening was cool but pleasant. New York doing its best impression of a livable city. The twins walked between Angela and Cyrus, Chloe holding her mother's hand while Caleb maintained his independence by touching no one. "When will we see you again?" Chloe asked as they reached the building entrance. 2 weeks. Cyrus glanced at Angela for confirmation. When she nodded, he continued. "I will come to Denver. We can do something fun. Whatever you want." "Can we go to the Natural History Museum?" Caleb asked immediately. "They have a whole section on architectural history." "And the Butterfly Pavilion," Chloe added. "I want to see the butterflies." "Then we will do both." Cyrus smiled, and it looked genuine. Museum and butterflies. It is a date. The twins seemed satisfied. They said goodbye without drama, already processing this new person in their lives with the remarkable adaptability of children who had been raised to handle complexity. But before Angela could guide them toward the car, Cyrus touched her elbow gently. "Can I have a moment? Just us?" Angela hesitated, then nodded. "Get in the car and buckle up," she told the twins. "I will be right there." Once they were out of earshot, Cyrus struggled for words. Unusual for someone who had built an empire on perfect pitches and persuasive presentations. "Thank you," he finally said. "For this. For telling me. For giving me a chance I know I do not deserve. Do not thank me yet. This is not about redemption. This is about 2 children who deserve to know their father. If you mess this up, if you let them down, you will never get another opportunity. I will make sure of it. I will not. I promise. You promised me things before. Your promises did not mean much then." The words were harsh, and she saw him flinch. Good. She wanted him to understand the stakes. To feel the weight of what he was taking on. "I know," Cyrus said quietly. "I know I destroyed your trust. I know sorry does not begin to cover what I did. But Angela, I am not asking you to forgive me. I am just asking for the opportunity to be a father to them. I will prove myself through actions, not words. See that you do." She turned to leave, then paused. "One more thing. Vivian. Is she still in your life?" "No. That ended 4 years ago. It was a mistake from the beginning. I do not care about your relationship history. I just need to know she will not be around the twins. I will not have her anywhere near my children. She will not be. I promise." "Absolutely." Angela nodded once, then walked to her car without looking back. As she pulled away, she saw Cyrus still standing in the shadows, watching them leave. "Mama," Chloe's voice came from the back seat. "Is he nice?" "I do not know yet." "What do you think?" "I think he seems sad. Like he lost something important." "He did," Caleb added with the certainty of someone stating obvious facts. "He lost us for 6 years. That is a lot of losing." Out of the mouths of children, Angela thought. Sometimes they saw more clearly than adults ever could. Before I continue with what happens next, before I take you into the weeks and months that followed this pivotal moment, I need to pause and speak directly to you. This story is just beginning. We have watched Angela walk into her past and face it head-on. We have seen Cyrus confronted with the consequences of his cowardice. We have witnessed 2 children navigate adult complexity with more grace than most grown-ups manage. But the real question has not been answered yet. Can people actually change? Can someone who betrayed you become someone you trust? Can walls built for survival become prisons that keep you from living? If you are invested in this story, if you want to know whether Cyrus proves himself or fails, whether Angela's walls come down or stay standing, I need you to do something right now. Hit that like button. Share this with someone who needs to believe that the worst chapter of their life does not have to be the last one. Subscribe to Mr. Dawson's Stories and turn on notifications, because the second half of this story is going to test everything we think we know about forgiveness. Drop a comment and tell me what you think should happen next. I read every single one, and your voice matters in this community we are building together. Now let us continue. Because the real journey is just beginning. The flight back to Denver felt longer than usual. The twins eventually fell asleep, their small bodies curled toward each other in the way they always slept, like even in unconsciousness they needed to confirm the other was still there. Angela stared out the window at darkness interrupted occasionally by city lights below, her mind replaying every moment of the evening. She had done it. Told Cyrus about the children. Navigated the first meeting. Established boundaries that would protect everyone involved. She should feel relieved. Accomplished. Satisfied that she had handled an impossible situation with grace and strength. Instead, she felt exhausted. And if she was being completely honest with herself, which she tried to avoid after 9 in the evening, she felt the faint stirring of something that might have been hope. Not for herself. She had sealed that door 7 years ago and thrown away the key. But hope that maybe, possibly, her children could have a father who showed up. Who stayed. Who proved that people could change, could learn from mistakes, could become better versions of themselves. She would believe it when she saw it. Until then, the walls stayed up. The boundaries remained firm. And she would continue being exactly what she had learned to be. Complete unto herself. Needing no one. Surviving everything. They landed in Denver just before midnight. Elena, Angela's closest friend and the only person who knew the full story, met them at the private terminal. How did it go? Elena asked once the twins were settled in the car, too sleepy to listen to adult conversation. Complicated. He wants to be involved. Says he has changed. We will see if his actions match his words. And how do you feel about that? I do not feel anything about it. Angela kept her voice firm. This is not about me. It is about them. My feelings are irrelevant. Elena gave her a look that suggested she did not believe that for a second but wisely said nothing. At home, Angela carried both twins to their beds, still small enough to carry though not for much longer. She tucked them in, kissed their foreheads, and stood in the doorway for a moment, watching them sleep. These 2 humans she had built and raised. Who somehow combined the best parts of her and Cyrus while being entirely their own people. They deserved a father. They deserved to know where they came from, to have access to that part of their identity. Even if it meant Angela had to face Cyrus regularly. Even if it meant keeping old wounds from reopening. Even if it meant maintaining professional courtesy with the man who had shattered her heart so completely she had spent 3 years certain she would never let anyone close again. She could do it. She had survived harder things. Later, in her own room, Angela pulled out her phone and found a text from Cyrus waiting. Thank you again for today. I meant everything I said. I will prove it. Sleep well. She stared at it for a long moment, then typed back. Actions, not words. See you in 2 weeks. Short. Professional. Giving nothing away. Exactly as it should be. The next 2 weeks passed in the familiar rhythm of single parenthood. School runs and client calls. Bedtime stories and board meetings. The ordinary routine that had become her life. But now there was something new woven into the pattern. Nightly video calls with Cyrus. He had asked permission to call the twins before bed, and Angela had agreed with strict parameters. 15 minutes maximum. Age-appropriate conversation only. She reserved the right to end the call at any time if it seemed to be upsetting them. The first call was awkward. Everyone trying too hard. Silences that stretched too long. Cyrus asking questions that felt rehearsed. The twins giving one-word answers while Angela watched from across the room, ready to intervene. But by the third night, something shifted. Show him your building, Chloe nudged her brother. The one you made at school. Caleb hesitated, then held up a model he had constructed from popsicle sticks and glue. It was supposed to be a bridge. Mrs. Patterson said it could hold 3 pounds before it collapsed. That is impressive. Cyrus leaned closer to his camera, genuinely examining the structure. What kind of support system did you use? Triangular or rectangular? Triangular. Caleb's voice carried a hint of pride he was trying to hide. Triangles distribute weight better. They do. That is called load distribution. You have good instincts. By the 5th call, Chloe was singing him songs she had learned at school. By the 7th, Alexander was showing him elaborate building designs through the camera, explaining his vision with the kind of intensity that only emerged when he felt truly safe. Do you have any pets? Chloe asked during one call. No. I travel too much. It would not be fair to an animal. You should get a fish. They do not care if you travel. That is actually a great idea. Will you help me pick one out when I visit? Yes. It should be purple. Of course it should. Angela watched these interactions from a careful distance. Monitoring without interfering. Cyrus was good with them. Patient. Engaged. Genuinely interested in their lives. He remembered details from previous conversations. Asked follow-up questions. Treated them like people rather than obligations. It was exactly what she had hoped for. And exactly what she had feared. Because if Cyrus proved himself capable of sustained commitment, if he became a real presence in the twins' lives, then Angela would have to acknowledge that maybe people could change. That maybe her judgment 7 years ago, while justified at the time, did not have to define him forever. And that was terrifying. Because if she let herself believe in his transformation, she would have to examine her own carefully constructed walls. Ask whether they were still necessary or had become a prison of her own making. 2 weeks after that initial meeting in New York, Cyrus arrived in Denver on a Friday afternoon. Angela had agreed to let him take the twins to the Natural History Museum and Butterfly Pavilion as promised. But she would be accompanying them. No unsupervised visits yet. Trust had to be earned in increments, not granted wholesale because of biology. He texted when he landed. When he checked into his hotel. When he was on his way to her house. The constant updates felt like someone proving they understood accountability. Angela appreciated it, even as she refused to acknowledge the appreciation. When the doorbell rang, both twins raced to answer it. Their excitement was palpable, vibrating through the house like electricity. Angela followed at a more measured pace, arriving in time to see Cyrus crouching down to their level, a wrapped package in his hands. I brought you something. He said it carefully, like he had rehearsed. But I want to be clear. I am not trying to buy your affection. Your mom and I agreed that gifts should be meaningful, not excessive. So this is small, but I thought you might like it. He handed a package to Caleb, who opened it with the methodical precision he applied to everything. Inside was a book about famous architects throughout history. Hardcover. Full of photographs and diagrams. Chloe's package contained a sketchbook with purple dragons embossed on the cover. These are perfect. Caleb was already flipping through the architecture book. Look, Chloe. There is Frank Lloyd Wright. I love it. Chloe hugged the sketchbook to her chest. Thank you. You are welcome. Cyrus stood and met Angela's eyes. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The weight of everything unsaid pressed against the silence. Hi. He finally managed. Hi. She echoed. Ready for a full day of museums and butterflies? Absolutely. I cleared my entire schedule. No calls, no emails, no distractions. Today is entirely about them. Another point in his favor. Angela kept her expression neutral but filed it away. Let us go then. The Natural History Museum was crowded with families enjoying the weekend. Children running between exhibits while parents tried to keep up. The pleasant chaos of people choosing to spend time together. Caleb navigated through the crowds with single-minded purpose, dragging Cyrus toward the architectural history section while Chloe and Angela followed at a more leisurely pace. He really likes him. Chloe observed, watching her brother gesture animatedly while Cyrus listened with apparent fascination. It seems that way. Do you like him? Angela considered the question. It is complicated, baby. That is what adults always say when the answer is yes, but they do not want to admit it. Angela could not help but laugh. When did you get so smart? I was born smart. Chloe replied matter-of-factly. Caleb says we got it from you. They caught up to the boys at an exhibit about architectural innovation. Cyrus was explaining something about load distribution while Caleb absorbed every word like he was learning secrets to the universe. This is the best day ever. Caleb announced when they finally moved to the next exhibit. Dad knows everything about buildings. The casual use of Dad made both Angela and Cyrus freeze. It was the first time Caleb had called him that. The word hung in the air between them, weighted with meaning neither quite knew how to hold. I do not know everything. Cyrus said gently, his voice thick with emotion he was trying to contain. But I am happy to share what I do know. They spent 3 hours at the museum before heading to the butterfly pavilion. The contrast was striking. From architectural precision to natural chaos. Hundreds of butterflies floating through a climate-controlled habitat while visitors walked among them, hoping to be chosen as a landing spot. Chloe was enchanted immediately. She stood very still in the center of the pathway, arms outstretched, waiting with the patience of someone who understood that beautiful things came to those who did not chase them. A monarch butterfly landed on her outstretched hand. Then another on her shoulder. Within moments, she had 5 butterflies resting on her like she was a flower they had been seeking. Do not move. Angela whispered, pulling out her phone to capture the moment. But Cyrus was faster. His phone already out, snapping photos from multiple angles. This is incredible. He breathed. She is like a butterfly magnet. I am a butterfly princess. Chloe whispered, her voice filled with wonder. Caleb stood nearby, watching his sister with a mixture of envy and pride. How do you do that? You have to be very still and think beautiful thoughts. That is ridiculous. Caleb countered. But he tried it anyway. Standing still, presumably thinking what he considered beautiful thoughts. Probably related to cantilevers and foundation engineering. A small blue butterfly landed on his nose. I got one. He yelped, then immediately regretted the noise as the butterfly flew away. I scared it. You will get another chance. Cyrus assured him. Here. Stand next to me. We will be still together. They stood side by side. Father and son. Waiting for butterflies. And watching them, Angela felt something in her chest crack. Not break. But crack in the way ice does when spring comes. Making room for something new to emerge. This was what she had wanted for them. A father who showed up. Who participated. Who made ordinary moments special just by being present. But it was also dangerous. Because the more Cyrus proved himself, the more she would have to confront her own walls. Decide whether they were still protecting her or had become a prison. After the butterfly pavilion, they stopped for ice cream despite the cool autumn weather. The twins debated flavors with the seriousness of people making life-altering decisions while Angela and Cyrus stood slightly apart, watching. Thank you for today. Cyrus said quietly. For letting me be part of this. You did well. Angela admitted. They are happy. That is what matters. Can I ask you something? He hesitated. Not about them. About you. That depends on the question. Are you happy? Beyond being a mother, beyond your success, beyond everything you have built. Are you happy? The question caught her off guard. Cutting through small talk to something more vulnerable. I am content. Angela replied carefully. I have work that matters. Children I love. A life I built from nothing. That is more than most people get. Content is not happy. Maybe not. But it is stable. And after 7 years of fighting for stability, I will take it over the chaos of chasing happiness. Cyrus absorbed this with visible sadness. I did that to you. Made you choose survival over joy. You were part of it. Angela acknowledged. But I made my own choices. I chose to leave. To start over. To build something that could not be taken from me. Those were my decisions. Even if they cost you happiness. Happiness is overrated. It is a feeling that comes and goes. Stability is what keeps you alive when feelings fail. Before Cyrus could respond, the twins returned with their ice cream selections. Mint chip for Caleb. Strawberry for Chloe. They sat at a small table outside despite the chill, the twins chattering about butterflies and buildings while the adults made small talk that carefully avoided anything substantial. The day ended back at Angela's house. Cyrus walked them to the door, hesitating on the threshold. "Can I come in? Just for a few minutes. I would like to see where they live. If that is okay." Angela considered, then nodded briefly. "They need baths and bed soon." The house was exactly what Cyrus would have expected if he had thought about it. Tastefully decorated but clearly lived in. The twins' artwork on the walls. Their toys organized in baskets that suggested someone fought a daily battle against chaos. Family photos covered one wall, documenting 6 years of life he had missed. Birthdays and holidays. First days of school. Random Tuesday afternoons that had been deemed photo-worthy. "You have built a beautiful life," Cyrus said, studying a photo of Angela and the twins at what looked like a pumpkin patch. All three of them laughing at something outside the frame. "I built a safe life," Angela corrected. Beautiful was never the goal. "Can I show you my room?" Chloe tugged at Cyrus's hand. "I have a dragon collection. I would love to see it." Caleb immediately protested. "If she gets to show her room, I get to show mine. Mine has blueprints. I want to see both. We will start with Chloe's, then Caleb's." "Fair." The tour of their rooms took 20 minutes. Each child pointing out treasured possessions and explaining their significance with the kind of detail that suggested they wanted their father to know everything about them all at once. Cyrus listened patiently. Asked questions. Treated their 7-year-old concerns with the same respect he probably gave board meeting presentations. By the time they finished, it was past the twins' bedtime. Angela shooed them toward the bathroom for baths while she walked Cyrus back to the door. "Can I see them again tomorrow?" he asked. "Before I fly back. Just lunch. Whatever fits your schedule." Angela considered. She had planned to maintain distance. Keep his visits controlled and limited. But the twins had been so happy today. And Cyrus had been genuinely present in a way that suggested this was not just novelty but real commitment. "Lunch," she agreed. "Noon. There is a park near here with a good playground. We will meet you there." "Thank you." He paused at the door. "Angela, I know I have years of trust to rebuild. I know one good day does not erase 7 years of absence. But I want you to know I am serious about this. About them. I am not going anywhere. Time will tell." She replied. Non-committal but not dismissive. After he left, she found both twins in the bathroom, supposedly brushing their teeth but actually playing with the water. "Did you have fun today?" she asked, already knowing the answer from their faces. "The best," Chloe confirmed. "Can he come every weekend?" "Not every weekend," Angela said gently. "He lives in New York. He has work. But he will visit as often as he can." "I like him," Caleb announced. "He is smart. And he listens when I talk about buildings. Most adults pretend to listen but they are really just waiting for me to stop. He does seem to really listen." "Do you like him?" Chloe asked again, her earlier question apparently still unresolved. "I am glad he is a good father to you," Angela said. Which was not an answer but was all she was willing to offer. That night, after the twins were finally asleep, Angela sat in her home office reviewing documents that needed her attention. But she kept getting distracted by her phone. A text from Cyrus. "Today was the best day I have had in 7 years. Thank you for giving me this chance. Sleep well." She did not respond immediately. Instead, she opened her photo album and looked at the pictures from the butterfly pavilion. There was one of Cyrus and Caleb standing side by side. Both perfectly still. Waiting for butterflies. Their profiles nearly identical. Same strong jawline. Same focused expression. Same slight furrow between their eyebrows. Her son looked like his father. Both her children carried pieces of Cyrus in their faces, their mannerisms, their way of approaching the world. She had always known this intellectually. But seeing them together made it visceral in a way that was both beautiful and painful. They deserved this. They deserved a father who showed up. Who tried. Who made the effort even when it was inconvenient. And so far, only 2 weeks in, she reminded herself, Cyrus was doing exactly that. She typed back. They had a good time. See you tomorrow at noon. Professional. Neutral. giving nothing away about the complicated tangle of emotions she was working very hard not to examine too closely. The next day at the park, Cyrus arrived 15 minutes early. Angela watched him from her car as he paced near the entrance, checking his phone repeatedly, clearly nervous. When he spotted them approaching, his whole face transformed into a smile that made him look younger. Less guarded. "Hey." He greeted them. "Ready for lunch? I found a great sandwich place nearby." They ate at a picnic table while the twins told Cyrus about their school week. Caleb's science project on bridges. Chloe's spelling test where she had gotten all the words right. The elaborate recess game involving dragons and castles that apparently required serious political negotiation among the first grade set. After lunch, the twins raced to the playground while Angela and Cyrus sat on a nearby bench. Close enough to supervise but far enough to give the children space to play. "I have been thinking," Cyrus said after a comfortable silence, "about how to make this work long term. The back and forth from New York is not sustainable if I want to be a real presence in their lives." "What are you suggesting?" "I am not sure yet. But I am exploring options. Ways to spend more time in Denver without abandoning my responsibilities in New York. It might take a few months to restructure things, but I want you to know I am working on it." Angela studied his profile, looking for signs of impulsiveness or naive romanticism. But he seemed serious. Thoughtful. Like someone making a carefully considered decision rather than a grand gesture. "Do not upend your life for them." "I am not appending my life," Cyrus replied. "I am restructuring it around what actually matters. There is a difference. For 7 years, I prioritized work over everything else. I built an empire but I was completely alone in it. That is not success. That is just expensive loneliness. I do not want that anymore. People do not change overnight, Cyrus." "You are right. They do not. But people can change gradually. Intentionally. If they are willing to do the work. I am willing. I just need you to give me the time to prove it." Angela wanted to argue. To point out all the ways this could fail. To protect herself and the twins from potential disappointment. But watching Caleb show Chloe how to cross the monkey bars while Cyrus watched them with undisguised affection, she found herself wanting to believe him. The afternoon passed quickly. The twins played until they were exhausted, then collapsed on the grass making shapes out of clouds while Cyrus lay between them, pointing out formations that looked like dragons or buildings depending on which child was asking. Angela watched from the bench. Her phone forgotten in her lap. Just observing this moment that felt simultaneously surreal and achingly normal. This could have been their life 7 years ago. If things had been different. If Cyrus had chosen her. If she had stayed and fought instead of running. If Vivian had never existed. But it had not been their life. And dwelling on alternate histories was pointless. What mattered was the present. These children. This moment. The careful reconstruction of something that resembled family even if it would never be traditional. When it was time for Cyrus to leave for the airport, both twins hugged him goodbye without hesitation. Chloe made him promise to call before bed. Caleb asked when he would visit again. 2 weeks. Cyrus said, looking to Angela for confirmation. She nodded. "And I will call you both this week if that is okay with your mom." "It is okay," Angela confirmed. After he left, the twins were quiet in the car. Processing. Finally Chloe spoke up from the back seat. "I am glad we have a dad now." "Me too," Caleb agreed. "Even if he was missing for a long time. At least he came back." "He did not know about you," Angela reminded them gently. "He came as soon as he found out." "Why did you not tell him before?" Chloe asked. "Then he could have been here the whole time." It was a fair question. One Angela had known would come eventually. She chose her words carefully. When you love someone and they hurt you really badly, sometimes you need space to heal. I needed that space. And I wanted to make sure I could give you both a good life before I let anyone else into it. Maybe that was not the perfect choice. But it was the choice I made with the information I had at the time. "Are you healed now?" Caleb asked. "Mostly. Some things leave scars even after they heal. But I am okay. Better than okay." "Do you think you will ever love someone again?" Chloe pressed. "Like in the movies where everyone gets married at the end." "Life is not like the movies, baby. Sometimes the ending is just learning to be happy with what you have instead of sad about what you lost. That is enough for me." But even as she said it, Angela wondered if it was true. Was contentment really enough? Or had she been lying to herself for 7 years, pretending that merely surviving was the same as living? The weeks turned into months. And Cyrus kept his word. He visited Denver twice a month. Every visit more comfortable than the last. He video called the twins 3 times a week. Conversations that grew longer and more natural as they all relaxed into this new dynamic. He sent thoughtful gifts for birthdays and holidays. Never excessive. Always meaningful. Things that showed he paid attention to their interests. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, Angela's walls began to crack. It started small. She would catch herself smiling at something Cyrus said during a video call. She would find herself looking forward to his visits, not just for the twins but because his presence had become comfortable. Familiar in a way that did not hurt anymore. She noticed how he had changed. More patient. More present. More willing to be vulnerable than the man she had known 7 years ago. 4 months after that initial meeting in New York, Cyrus made an announcement during one of his Denver visits. They were having dinner at Angela's house. Something that had become routine. Cyrus cooking while Angela supervised homework. Everyone pretending this was completely normal. "I have some news," Cyrus said as they sat down to eat. "I have been restructuring my company. Delegating more responsibilities to my executive team. And I have decided to open a Denver office for Thorne Industries." Angela set down her fork. The twins went very still. "It will be small at first," Cyrus continued. "Just a satellite location. But it means I can spend more time here. Maybe 3 weeks out of every month instead of just weekends." The twins erupted into cheers. Chloe knocked over her water glass in her excitement. Caleb was already planning activities they could do together. Angela felt her heart rate increase. Whether from excitement or panic, she could not quite determine. "That is a big change," she said carefully. "It is the right change," Cyrus replied. "I have been thinking about it since that first day in my office. My company can function without me micromanaging every decision. But Caleb and Chloe. They are only 7 once. I do not want to miss any more of their lives than I already have. What about your life in New York? Your friends? Your routine? Everything you have built there?" "I did not have much of a life in New York," Cyrus admitted. "Just work. The few friends I had were really business associates who have mostly fallen away since I started traveling here so much. There is nothing tying me to New York except inertia and habit. Here, I have my children. That is everything." It was exactly the right answer. Exactly what Angela had hoped to hear. And it terrified her completely. Because if Cyrus relocated to Denver, if he became a permanent fixture in their daily lives, the careful distance she had maintained would become impossible. She would have to actually deal with her feelings instead of compartmentalizing them into monthly visits that were easy to control. "When would this happen?" she asked, keeping her voice neutral. "I am looking at properties now. Hoping to be settled within 2 months. I wanted to tell you first. Make sure it was okay. You do not need my permission to move to Denver. It is a free country." "No. But I need you to be comfortable with it. If this is too much too fast, I can slow down the timeline." Angela looked at the twins, who were watching this exchange with barely contained excitement. She looked at Cyrus, who had spent 4 months proving himself reliable and consistent. She looked at the life she had built that suddenly felt less like protection and more like limitation. "Do it," she said. "Move here. Be close to them. They deserve that." What she did not say, what she barely admitted to herself, was that maybe she deserved it too. Maybe she deserved to see what happened when someone who had hurt her actually did the work to become better. Maybe she deserved the possibility of something more than just content survival. That night, after Cyrus left and the twins were asleep, Angela stood in her kitchen drinking tea and staring at nothing. Elena found her there 20 minutes later. Still holding the same cup of tea. Lost in thought. "You are thinking very loudly," Elena observed, pouring herself tea and settling at the kitchen table. "Want to share or should I just guess?" "He is moving here," Angela said. "Opening a Denver office. He will be here 3 weeks out of every month." "And how do you feel about that?" "I do not know. Terrified. Hopeful. Both simultaneously. He has been everything I hoped he would be as a father. Consistent. Present. Genuinely engaged. The twins adore him. This should be good news. But," Angela finished for her. "But it means I cannot keep him at arm's length anymore. I cannot pretend this is just about co-parenting when he is going to be a permanent fixture in our daily lives. I am going to have to actually examine what I feel about him. Beyond just whether he is good for the children. And what do you feel about him? Elena asked gently. Angela was quiet for a long moment. Staring into her tea like it held answers. I do not hate him anymore. She finally said. I did for a long time. But watching him with Caleb and Chloe. Seeing how he has changed. How he prioritizes them over everything else. It is hard to maintain hatred in the face of genuine transformation. That is not what I asked. I know what you asked. I am just not ready to answer it honestly. Because the answer scares you. Because the answer means I might have to risk something I swore I would never risk again. My heart. My trust. My belief that people can choose me and stay chosen. He broke all of that 7 years ago. What if he breaks it again? What if he does not? Elena countered. What if he has actually become the man you needed him to be back then? Are you going to punish him forever for who he was? Or give him credit for who he has become? It was the question Angela had been avoiding for months. She had been so focused on protecting herself and the twins that she had not considered what she might be protecting herself from. Not just pain. But possibility. I do not know if I can do it. Angela whispered. I do not know if I can be that vulnerable again. You do not have to decide tonight. Elena said. But eventually, you will have to decide something. Living in this limbo, not moving forward, not letting go, that is just another kind of prison. You survived what he did to you. You built an empire from nothing. You raised 2 incredible children alone. You are strong enough to risk your heart again if you choose to. The question is whether you are brave enough. The word settled over Angela like a challenge. She had thought surviving was the brave part. But maybe staying safe was actually the coward's choice. Maybe real courage meant risking pain for the possibility of something better than mere contentment. 6 weeks later, Cyrus closed on a house in Angela's neighborhood. A beautiful craftsman-style home 3 miles from her place. Close enough for regular visits but not so close that it felt like pressure. He invited them over for the walkthrough before he moved in. Wanting the twins to feel comfortable in what would become their second home. This will be your room when you stay over. Cyrus showed Caleb a bedroom with built-in bookshelves and a desk position to catch morning light. I thought you could use it for your architecture projects. Caleb's eyes went wide. This is mine. Really mine. Really yours. We will decorate it however you want. Chloe's room was painted lavender with space for her growing dragon collection and a window seat perfect for reading. I love it. She breathed. Can we stay tonight? Not tonight. Angela interjected gently. Your dad does not even have furniture yet. But soon. Once he is settled, they explored the rest of the house. A home office where Cyrus would work. A modern kitchen that opened to a backyard perfect for children. A living room with space for family movie nights. It was a home designed for the life Cyrus was building. Not the life he had. After the twins ran outside to explore the yard, Angela and Cyrus stood in the empty kitchen. The space between them charged with something neither was quite ready to name. This is really happening. Angela said. You are really here. In Denver. Building a life close to them. I told you I would. Cyrus replied. I know it took months to prove it. But I meant every word. They are my priority. This is where I need to be. Before I tell you what happens next, before we reach the moment that will change everything, I need to speak directly to you. We have come so far together. From that first shocking confrontation at the gala to this moment standing in Cyrus's new Denver home. You have watched Angela protect her heart while slowly learning to trust again. You have seen Cyrus transform from the man who chose wrong into a father who shows up every single day. If this story has moved you, if you believe in second chances and hard-earned redemption, I need you to do something for me right now. Hit that like button. Share this video with someone who needs to believe that broken things can be rebuilt. That mistakes do not have to be permanent. That people can choose differently and mean it. Subscribe to Mr. Dawson's Stories because this is what we do here. We tell the truth about love and loss and the messy work of becoming better than we were. Drop a comment telling me what you think should happen next. Whether Angela should risk her heart again. Whether you believe Cyrus has truly changed. Your voice matters in this community we are building together. Now let us find out how this story ends. Can I ask you something? Angela said, her voice barely above a whisper. Not as the mother of your children. Just as me. Anything. Why? Why did you choose her 7 years ago? I have never understood it. We were good together. We had plans. And then Vivian appeared and suddenly none of it mattered. I need to understand what I was not. Cyrus's face crumpled with old pain. You were not anything except exactly who you needed to be. The problem was not you, Angela. It was me. I was a coward. You challenged me to be better. To be more authentic. To examine the parts of myself I had been avoiding. Vivian let me stay exactly as I was. She was comfortable. Easy. And I chose easy over meaningful because I was too afraid to do the hard work of becoming someone worthy of you. And now. Now I have done the work. Not for you. I do not have the right to expect anything from you. But for them. For myself. Because I finally understood that easy is not the same as good. That comfort is not the same as connection. That the life I was living was hollow no matter how successful it looked from the outside. Angela felt tears threatening and blinked them back. I am scared. She admitted. Of letting you in. Of trusting you with more than just co-parenting. Of believing this version of you is real and permanent. I am scared too. Cyrus confessed. Scared I will mess this up somehow. Scared I do not deserve the chance you have already given me. Scared that 7 years of proving myself will not be enough to overcome 7 minutes of betrayal. But Angela, I am here. I moved my entire life to be close to our children. I restructured my company. I found a therapist. I learned how to be present instead of just productive. I did all of that whether you ever forgave me or not. Because it was the right thing to do. But if you are asking whether I would like more than just co-parenting. Whether I would like the chance to show you I can be the partner you deserved back then. The answer is yes. Absolutely yes. The honesty hung between them. Raw and vulnerable. Angela could walk away right now. Maintain her boundaries. Keep her heart safe behind the walls she had spent 7 years building. Or she could take the terrifying step into possibility. Into the risk that someone who had hurt her had actually learned how to love her better. I need time. She said finally. More time to see if this stability holds. To trust that you are not going to wake up one day and decide Denver is boring and the twins are too much work and disappear back to New York. To believe that you have actually changed and this is not just an extended performance. Take all the time you need. Cyrus said. I am not going anywhere. That became his constant refrain over the next 6 months. As Cyrus settled into Denver life, he showed up for school plays and parent-teacher conferences. He coached Caleb's Little League team despite knowing nothing about baseball beyond the basic rules. He attended Chloe's dance recitals and learned to braid her hair through YouTube tutorials and patient practice. He became part of the fabric of their daily lives. Not just a visitor but a presence. And Angela watched. Carefully. Critically. Looking for cracks in the foundation. But the cracks never came. Cyrus was solid. Consistent. Exactly who he claimed to be. One evening, 8 months after he had moved to Denver, Angela found herself at Cyrus's house for a dinner that had become a weekly tradition. The twins were in the backyard building an elaborate fort with supplies Cyrus had purchased specifically for the project. Angela and Cyrus were cleaning up the kitchen together, moving around each other with the easy familiarity of people who had done this countless times. I have been thinking. Angela said, rinsing a plate. About what you said. About wanting more than co-parenting. Cyrus went very still beside her. And I think maybe I am ready to try. Not jumping into anything. Not rushing. But just trying. To see if there is something there beyond shared children and old history. To see if we can build something new that does not carry all the weight of what broke us before. The smile that spread across Cyrus's face was incandescent. Really? Really? But Cyrus, I need you to understand something. I am not the same person I was 7 years ago. I am harder. More guarded. Less willing to ignore red flags or accept less than I deserve. If we do this and you hurt me again, there will not be another chance. Not ever. I understand. Cyrus said seriously. And I promise you. I will not waste this opportunity. I spent 7 years learning to be someone worthy of you. I am not going to throw that away. He moved closer. Carefully. Asking permission with his eyes before taking her hand. Can I take you to dinner? Just us. A real date where we figure out who we are now. Not who we were. I would like that. Their first date happened 2 weeks later. Elena stayed with the twins, who were thrilled at the idea of their parents going out like grown-ups, as Chloe put it. Cyrus took Angela to a quiet restaurant with warm lighting and no distractions. They talked for 3 hours about everything and nothing. About who they had become in their years apart. About what they wanted from life now that they had both achieved the success they had been chasing. It felt different than it had 7 years ago. More grounded. Less desperate. They were not two young people trying to prove something to the world. They were two adults who had survived heartbreak and built separate lives and were now choosing carefully and intentionally to see if those lives might fit together. The months that followed were a careful dance. Building trust in increments. Learning each other again. Dates became regular. Conversations became deeper. The walls Angela had maintained for so long came down in measured stages, each brick removed only after Cyrus proved he could be trusted with what lay beneath. He never pushed. Never demanded more than she was ready to give. He simply showed up. Day after day. Proving through action what words alone could never convey. The twins watched with cautious optimism. They had grown accustomed to having both parents in their lives, but they were perceptive enough to notice the shift in how those parents looked at each other. "Are you and Daddy going to get married?" Chloe asked one evening, with the bluntness only an 8-year-old could manage. "Do not rush them, Chloe." Caleb rolled his eyes. "Adults take forever to do obvious things." Angela laughed despite herself. "We are taking things slowly. Figuring out what works for everyone. It already works." Chloe pointed out. "You smile more now. Daddy smiles more now. We are all happy. What else is there to figure out?" Out of the mouths of children, Angela thought. Sometimes they cut through complexity with surgical precision. A year after that gala in New York, Angela stood in the ballroom of a hotel she had rented for a foundation event she had organized. Her company had launched a charitable arm focused on supporting single parents building careers while raising children alone. Tonight was the inaugural gala. A celebration of everything she had built and everyone who had helped her build it. Cyrus stood at her side. Not as a guest but as a partner. His hand rested comfortably on the small of her back, natural and familiar. Caleb and Chloe were charming donors nearby, explaining their architectural and artistic endeavors with the confidence of children who had been loved completely and consistently. "We did okay," Cyrus said quietly, watching their children. "Did we not?" "We did better than okay," Angela replied. "We did real. Messy and imperfect and absolutely real. We turned the worst thing into something better. I love you." He said it simply. Clearly. Without reservation. Angela looked at the life she had built. At the man standing beside her who had proven through years of consistent action that people could change. At the children who represented everything she had fought for. At the future stretching out before them, no longer terrifying but full of possibility. "I love you too," she replied. Again. Still. Earned through every difficult moment and every choice to stay. The story does not end there. Because real stories never truly end. They continue. They evolve. They face new challenges. But they face them together. Rebuilding trust one day at a time. Choosing each other consistently. Proving that second chances are real when both people are willing to do the work. Angela had walked into that gala expecting confrontation. Expecting closure. Expecting to prove that she had won. Instead, she found something she had stopped believing in 7 years ago. A family. Imperfect. Hard-won. And absolutely real. Because sometimes the worst chapter of your life becomes the foundation for everything beautiful that follows. And sometimes the person who hurt you the most becomes the one who proves that people can change. Can grow. Can choose differently when they finally understand what truly matters. That is the end of our story. But before you go, I need to share something with you. This story was never just about Angela and Cyrus. It was about survival. About resilience. About the courage it takes to build yourself back up after someone breaks you down. About the even greater courage it takes to risk your heart again when every instinct tells you to stay safe behind your walls. If you are watching this and you have been hurt, if you are still carrying the weight of someone else's choices, I want you to know something. You are not defined by what happened to you. You are defined by what you choose to do next. Angela could have stayed bitter. Could have spent her whole life making Cyrus pay for his mistakes. Could have used the twins as weapons instead of bridges. Instead, she chose differently. She chose to let him prove himself. She chose to believe that transformation was possible. She chose to risk pain for the possibility of something real. That is what courage looks like. Not the absence of fear, but action in spite of it. If this story moved you, if it gave you hope or made you think or touched something you have been carrying, I need you to do something right now. Hit that like button. It takes 1 second and it helps more people find stories like this one. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that their worst chapter does not have to be their last one. Subscribe to Mr. Dawson's Stories and turn on that notification bell because we are just getting started. Every week, we tell stories about love and loss and the messy beautiful work of becoming more than we were. Drop a comment and tell me your story. Tell me about a time you chose courage over comfort. Tell me about a second chance you gave or received. I read every single comment and your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Until next time, remember this. Your past does not determine your future. Your pain can become your purpose. And sometimes, just sometimes, the person who broke you can become the person who helps you heal. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you for believing that every story, including yours, deserves a beautiful next chapter.